Hi, I'm Kevin Hatley and welcome to Kevin Hatley Photography in my office. This is a channel that I've set up to share my experiences of wildlife and nature with others. So let's go. There are many sights and sounds that we see in the countryside here in the UK that remind us of certain times of the year, from the golden bronzed leaves of autumn to the geese flying over on their migration routes in winter, to the bluebells as you see here in the spring and in the summer. But there's one sound for me that always tells me that spring is just around the corner, and it's this sound here. Now I'm sure that's a sound that everybody recognises. Yes, it's the sound of a woodpecker. But what woodpecker is it? What I intend to do in this video is to share with you my experience of photographing the Great Spotted Woodpecker. And what we'll do is we'll look at how to identify the Great Spotted Woodpecker, we'll look at where to find them, we'll look at their habitat, we'll look at some of the behaviour, and then what I want to do with you is share with you my experience of how I go about photographing the Great Spotted Woodpecker. Okay, where I am now is I'm situated in a wood where last winter I set up a bird feeder station. And whilst I had the feeder station set up, I also made a video on it and the top 5 tips on how to put a wild bird feeder station together. And I'll leave a link to that at the end of this video. During that time that I was doing that project, the feeder station was visited on a number of occasions by the Great Spotted Woodpecker. However, in the UK we have 3 main woodpeckers. This video is mainly about the Great Spotted Woodpecker, but I'll briefly explain the other 2. The first one is the Greenwood Woodpecker. It's the largest of the 3 woodpeckers we have in the UK. As its name suggests, it's green in colour, but it is the largest woodpecker we have. Now, green woodpeckers don't really do a lot of drumming as much as the other 2, but they do have a very distinctive sound, and it's called a yaffle or a yoffle, depending on what part of the country you come from, and it's very distinctive. And this is what it sounds like. So it's a very distinctive sound that's linked to the green woodpecker. Of the other 2 woodpeckers, which are both black and white mainly in colour, the smallest is the lesser spotted woodpecker. Now the lesser spotted woodpecker is probably about the size of a large sparrow. It spends a lot of its time high up in the tree canopies, and its drum is different from that of the Great Spotted Woodpecker. The lesser spotted woodpecker's drumming is softer and it's longer in repetition, and here it is now. As I said, this video is mainly about the Great Spotted Woodpecker, so what we'll do now is we'll concentrate on that. So how do I identify the Great Spotted Woodpecker? Well, the Great Spotted Woodpecker is probably about the same size of a blackbird, to give you a similarity. It's mainly black and white in colour, and it has a red underbelly or a red rump. Both birds, the male and the female, have a black cap, but the male has a red patch at the back of its neck, which is a distinguishing feature between the male and the female. With a pale breast, excuse me, the bill is very long and pointed and very sharp, as you'll see with some of the video that I'll show you. It has a very long tongue, obviously for reaching its main food source, which is insects, and it's got large claws, 2 pointing forward and 2 pointing back. What I'll do now is I'll just show you some video of the Great Spotted Woodpecker. Okay, so how do we tell the difference between a male and a female Great Spotted Woodpecker? They are very similar. There's one main identification feature that's different between the male and the female, and that is that the male Great Spotted Woodpecker has a red patch on the back of its neck, and you'll see that in the video that's coming up in a moment or 2. Now, it can get a bit confusing once the young woodpeckers are hatching from the nest and fledging, because the young Green Spotted Woodpecker has a red cap right on the very top of its head. It has a red cap, and And it's very difficult to tell the difference between a young female and a young male Great Spotted Woodpecker. But as they mature, they actually lose the red cap completely. And as I said, the difference between the male and the female is the red patch at the back of the male's neck. And here's a video to show you that. Okay, another identification feature for the Great Spotted Woodpecker is its call. There are basically three different types of call. There's a straightforward contact call, which is a single, and I'll play all these, a single repetitive key that you will hear. The alarm call is the same call, but it's a lot more repetitive, so it's key, 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 key. So when the bird's alarmed, it rapidly fires off the contact call at a rapid rate of knots. The Great Spotted Woodpecker's drumming call normally starts around January, February time when the males are claiming their territory. It's quite loud and it is in short bursts. So now we know how to identify the Great Spotted Woodpecker, where are we actually going to find them and what type of habitat do they prefer to live in. Well, they can be found in a variety of places, from woods, parks and gardens, but especially at bird tables and feeder stations. As I said, this wood that I'm in here now, in fact it's only about 50 metres away from this location. I set up a feeder station during the winter where I got the majority of my photographs from. And I believe that a feeder station offers you the best chance to get close to Great Spotted Woodpeckers, or a bird table if you're lucky enough to have them come to one in your garden, to get the opportunity to get good close-up shots of the Great Spotted Woodpecker like these. Here I've got two Great Spotted Woodpeckers, one a female, one a male, feeding on one of my feeder posts in the feeder station. This is the first time I've had two of them down really this close together at the same time. Okay, now I'm going to look at a bit about the Great Spotted Woodpecker's behaviour. In fact, I've just heard, and I don't know if you'll pick this up, but I've just heard a Great Spotted Woodpecker drumming in the background. You might pick it up on the audio. I hope so. So yeah, Great Spotted Woodpecker's diet, its main diet is that of insects, or its main source, and it uses its powerful beak or bill to hammer into the bark and the trunks of trees to get at the insects that are there. And it has a very long tongue which it uses to extract its food source. Great Spotted Woodpeckers will also take chicks, fledglings and eggs of smaller birds, especially those that live in cavities in trees, and again it uses its powerful bill to get at them, to prey on them. During the winter, however, they tend to then rely on nuts and seeds, so natural nuts like beech. Beech nuts are one of its favourites in the winter, and it's a very important food source to get them through it. And that's why at a feeder station or at a bird table, peanuts they just love peanuts, absolutely love them. And again, I'll show you some video of that. Okay, what I want to talk to you about now is the Great Spotted Woodpecker and its breeding season. As I said earlier, around about January, February time, the males will start to try and establish a territory by drumming and attracting a female into that territory so that they can then breed. What it will do is once they've established a pair, the pair of them, but mainly the male, will start to excavate a nest hole in a tree. Now, that nest hole is anything from about 2 metres up to, and I've seen them as high as about 20 metres, on a tree. And what will happen is, once the nest hole has been excavated, the female will lay between 4 and 6 eggs. They don't line the nest. The only material that will be in that nest will be the shavings from when the bird has actually excavated the nest hole. Once the young have actually hatched, they'll stay in the nest for about 3 weeks, and it can be quite, if you're walking through a wood and there's young woodpeckers in a nest hole, you will hear them because they're very vocal, as you're about to see in this short video clip. What you'll see is the parent come in with a mouthful of food. It establishes its presence by giving it its contact call, which we did earlier, which is that single key sound, and then you'll see that the fledglings are quite vocal in wanting the parents to come to the nest hole to feed them. Okay, what's my approach to how I go about photographing a great spotted woodpecker? As I said previously, bird tables and feeder stations, I would suggest, are going to provide you with your best opportunity to get close to a great spotted woodpecker and get the photograph that you're after. They can spook very easily, so you need to be very careful about how you move. At a bird table or a feeder station, they're normally used to human presence. So, I mean, I dress like this all the time because I'm comfortable in it. You don't necessarily need to wear camouflage gear, but I would suggest that you should be wearing drab clothing. We're basically looking at two scenarios. We're looking at a stationary bird, and I would be looking at using either a beanbag or a tripod to fit my camera. I shoot with the Canon R5. I'm not going to talk about the settings on the Canon R5. I'm just going to talk about the basic exposure settings that I would advise you to set for photographing great spotted woodpecker. So if you've got a stationary bird and you're on a beanbag or on a tripod, I would be shooting at an aperture of about f7.1, which is the widest on the Canon R5 with the 100 to 500 fully extended at 500 millimeters. You're looking at a shutter speed of about 1/250th of a second, and I always shoot in auto ISO. So f7.1, 1/250th of a second, and auto ISO when the camera is supported. Now, if you're not supporting your camera, you need to remember the reciprocal rule, which is one of the basics of photography, and that is to shoot with a minimum shutter speed equal to the focal length of your camera. So in this case, if I wasn't using a beanbag or a tripod, using the 100 to 500, and I was at 500 millimeters, my minimum shutter speed would be 500th of a second. And what I try to do normally is double that. Then we have the other scenario where we're talking about birds in flight. Now, great spotted woodpeckers, once they come down and they're feeding and they go to move off, they're very sharp and they're very quick. So I would suggest you're looking at a minimum shutter speed of about 1/2000th of a second. I would then set my aperture at about f8 just to give me that little bit more depth of field, and again I would shoot on auto ISO. So for great spotted woodpecker in flight, 1/2000th of a second, f8 and auto ISO. So what I want to do now is just leave you with some of my favourite photographs that I've taken of the great spotted woodpecker and a little bit of video, and I hope you enjoy them. Thanks for watching this edition of Kevin Hatley Photography and how to photograph the Great Spotted Woodpecker. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, learning about these fascinating birds. All I would ask is that if you've liked the video, could I ask you to hit the like button? Could I also ask you, if you haven't, could you consider subscribing to my channel, Kevin Hatley Photography? It just gives me that incentive to keep coming out here. I mean, the countryside here in England and the UK is absolutely beautiful, and there's nothing greater than coming out here on my own with my camera and photographing the wildlife and nature, and then being able to share that experience with you. So could I ask you to subscribe to my channel, Kevin Hatley Photography? So until the next time, stay safe, take care, and I hope to see you soon. Bye for now.